Good afternoon. Welcome back. It is Sunday, April 30th, 2023. This is our fourth straight month of doing these birthday and event videos. I've had a lot of fun with these as I was going through the cards this morning to get them separated for the particular birthdays today. It was just really interesting to see all the cards on, especially a couple of the drivers that I had a lot of. Then I had to really narrow it down to what I wanted. But yeah, like I said, I'm having a lot of fun with this project. So let's jump into the events real quick. Richard Petty won 4 races on this date in 1966, 67, 70, and 72, with the one in 66 coming at Darlington, the one at 67 coming at the Virginia State Fairgrounds, now known as Richmond Raceway. Of course, it was the half-mile track then. It's been reconfigured to the three-quarter-mile present-day facility. Columbia Speedway in 70 and Martinsville in 72. So you can see how much changing in that short 6 years that there was done on the schedule just on this one particular date. Now, I will let you know that between 1972 and 1995, there were no Cup races on this date. So we're going to fast forward here to 1989, where Bobby Hillin won his second and final career Busch Series race at Nazareth. Of course, I always thought Hilton could have been a lot more successful in the second series than he was in the Cup. I think it just kind of fit his driving style a little bit better. We did mention 1995 a few minutes ago. Mark Martin won at Talladega on this date, and of course, that race is known famously for Dale Earnhardt getting spun by Morgan Shepherd on the last lap. Also, Loy Allen Jr.'s only career top 10 finish came in this race. And our final event on this day, also at Talladega in 2005, Martin Truex Jr. won the Busch race that day. I tell you what, go find that race on YouTube. I think it was the Aaron's 312. I can't remember what the title sponsor was. One of the craziest races that you will ever remember. Lots of accidents, it was just odd. It was just an odd race all day long. So a few birthdays. We have a couple that I don't have cards for. Born on this date in 1950, a protege of Richard Petty, Mr. Joe Milliken. Of course, Milliken only ran one full season and several partial seasons because of funding. He was in that amazing rookie class of 1979 with Terry Labonte, Harry Gant, and Dale Earnhardt. Joe actually finished higher in points than Earnhardt did, but because of the way the rookie points were awarded, Earnhardt ended up with more rookie points. Born on this date in 1962, multi-time ARCA race winner and champion, Mr. Frank Kimmel. And born on this date in 1975, former IndyCar driver, Mr. Darren Manning. So let's go to the ones that we do have a few cards for. Start off with 1963. Former ARCA Series champion and current ARCA team owner, Mr. Andy Hillenburg. Of course, this card here was one of the promo cards that were inserted in the tracks, I believe 1992 tracks. Then we have a 93 tracks set. Then we have the first run there. Of course, Andy did run in the Indy 500. We talked about the Budget Gourmet sponsorship for Jason Keller's birthday the other day. Like I said, Andy was the original Budget Gourmet driver. Failed to qualify for several races early on. There's a good look at the uniform in the car. And then there's his ARCA car that he won the title with in 1995. Got the regular and then the blue. Of course, Andy operates multiple teams today in the ARCA series. Mostly, I don't want to call them field fillers, but that's what they are. Andy did have a brief Cup resurgence in the early 2000s as field filler. And Brock Beard's channel has it covered, has some really, really great videos about all the different teams that basically were starting parking field fillers because NASCAR wanted a full field. But Andy did run an Indy 500. I want to say in the late 90s, early 2000s. He can jump in anything, sprint cars, whatever. And Andy was a wheelman back then, but now he is strictly a car owner. Born on this date in 1975, I want to compare this guy to Harrison Burton, or compare Harrison Burton to this guy, just because of their trajectory in the second-tier series and the fact that they both got their first full-time Cup ride with the Wood brothers. Mr. Elliott Sadler. And I was looking at some statistics. When he got called up to Cup in '99, Elliott had 5 career Busch Series wins. Of course, when Harrison got called up to Cup, he had 4. They both struggled in their first year with the Wood brothers. Harrison's about a third of the way through his second season with the Woods. Still struggling. So probably if he follows the same trajectory as Elliott, sometime next season he'll get a one, because Elliott got his first win at Bristol in 2001. I believe it was a pit strategy race. But I could see Harrison, that happening to him sometime next year. So back to Elliott, I just kind of compare the two because they were young prospects, and I feel that they were both brought up a little too quickly and needed a little bit more seasoning in the second-tier series. Elliott's wins came with the Diamond Ridge bunch. Of course, I got autographs back from Gary and Carolyn Bechtel, who are the owners of this team. Of course, this might be the C.C. Welliver team here, but I know this one was the Diamond Ridge bunch. Then again, we talked about him moving up to Cup. He had the Citgo sponsorship, the Wood Brothers 50th anniversary there. He did have a blue uniform because they had some different promotions going on. 2001, they got the Motorcraft sponsorship. There was his first win at Bristol, we mentioned. Then he became the Candyman for a hot minute. And you can see some different brands being represented here. Of course, Pedigree. And then, again, same M&Ms, they just tweaked the uniforms a little bit, changed the colors up. Then in mid-2006, he jumped over to Evernham's team. So he was only in that plain Dodge uniform really briefly. Then he had a rotation of sponsors like Best Buy, Stanley, McDonald's, and so forth. And then he kind of became a stalwart for One Main Financial, driving for, here you see Kevin Harvick, Joe Gibbs, Junior Motorsports, and he did drive for RCR, but I couldn't find any of the uniforms. And he did have a brief Cup run with Tommy Baldwin, which I totally forgot about with Golden Corral. And then we got some of the car cards wanted to show you. Of course, this looks a lot like the Chad Little Jimmy Hensley car from 1992. The Trop Arctic car. And, of course, we're going to have these cards going every which way because I did a horrible job separating them. And if you notice, when Elliott went to the 21 card, they actually changed the font of the number a little bit, which I thought was unique. Got a throwback there, and then a special paint scheme. There was the Motorcraft scheme. It was a pretty clean scheme, and you can see there over the years, they doctored up a little bit, a little more red and black and yellow, and taking out the white on the numbers. This one's hard to see, but it is part of that blue uniform. We got some M&M stuff here, so you can see that they change it up just a little bit here and there. So not really anything that they did. Of course, there's a Pedigree car, and there's some kind of psychedelic-looking car. I always liked that look on those Dodges. I thought it was super clean. Stanley car. Didn't have any of the One Main Financial cars. Didn't see any of those cards in there, but they didn't focus, the card companies by this point didn't focus much on the second-tier series cars. Our final birthday today, born on this date in 1963, so same day as Andy Hillenburg. And I feel this guy's like a lot like Elliott Sadler. They're kind of almost chameleons because they change colors a lot, meaning sponsors and teams, and they kind of blend in. But started his Cup career back in 1985, Mr. Michael Waltrip. And I'm starting off with this one because it has this Hawaiian Punch uniform, because obviously there weren't any cards of him back then. They didn't have the cards in 86. But he started off in 86 full-time. Then we have both Max and Max Update, because in 1990 he ran Maxwell House Country Time paint scheme. Of course, 91 he moved over to Pennzoil. And you can see over the years with the Pennzoil folks, not a lot of changing with the uniforms, just, color changes. And during this time, he was also doing some pit reporting during Busch races for ESPN2. He moved to the Woods, we talked about, in 96. Of course, Sadler took over for him in 99. There he won the Winston All-Star race in 96. He's also running his own Busch team, MW Windows, Band-Aid. Then he moved over to Jim Matei's team with Phillips and Nations Rent. And, of course, DEI, he had that win in the 01 Daytona 500, 10 years to the date. He won his first truck race for Billy Ballou. Then he went to his own team, Michael Waltrip Racing, back in 2005, I think. This is the only picture of the Blue Def car I have. Of course, I think that was a Prism Motorsports. Had his own team for quite some time. Just noticed the other day, or earlier today, two-time Daytona 500 champion. A lot of the Cup Series drivers, of course, have two-time or three-time or whatever Cup Series number. He's got Daytona 500 winner on his. And then we're going to show you some of the cars that Michael drove. Of course, we talked about the Pennzoil car. It was always a clean-looking car. You know, it didn't change much during his time there. And this is the Busch car that he ran during the same time. So you can see the Cup car and the Busch car painted up identically. Biggest detail was the contingency decals. There you see the Winston Cup, and there you see the Busch Series contingency decals. Of course, we talked about, there you see the font style is different on his car versus Elliott Sadler's, just with the numbers. Anytime I find the Japan cards, I like to show those off, because sometimes the paint schemes are slightly different. Got 101 Dalmatians paint scheme going on. There's that paint scheme again with a throwback, and that's a nice looking ride. Again, we talked about his Busch Series car, the Band-Aid car he ran for a couple of years. There's M.W. Winda's car with the Phillips. This was the only one that I could find of the Nations Rent. Nice looking ride. I always like how they made the number and then the hood look like a road sign. Couple incarnations of the 15 here. You got the original, and then the one that had the iconic Earnhardt Legacy stripes. Then again, he went to his own car, 55 COT, a couple different. And then the crash that he's known for, of course, 1990 Busch Series. I recommend that you throw that in your YouTube machine. Check out that crash that he walked away from. Pretty spectacular. Very lucky was he to walk away from that crash. Of course, Mike Harmon would have a very similar one many, many years later. So anyway, thanks again for watching. Sorry this video went on, but some days you get these drivers that just have multiple sponsors and multiple cars, and I like to try to represent as much as I can. So thanks again for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we will see you tomorrow morning.